Chike, I can't do this anymore. Every day is suffering. No money, no comfort, no future. This isn't a marriage, it's punishment.
Ifeoma, don't speak like that. We are struggling, yes, but things will change. For God's sake, look at Ada and Amara. They need their mother.
They'll survive. Children always do. But me, I'm tired of surviving. I want to live.
So you will leave me? Leave us? Because I am poor.
Because you are hopeless. 5 years of marriage, and what do I have? A leaking roof, empty pots, shame. Other women wear lace and gold, I wear faded wrappers. Chike, I won't die with you in poverty.
Ifeoma, please. For their sake.
No, Chike. You keep them. They will only slow me down. I need to save myself.
The harmattan wind scraped dust across the compound, whistling through gaps in the zinc roof of the one-room house. Inside, Cheek sat on a cracked stool, shoulders bent, carefully measuring Gary into a rusted tin cup. His twin daughters, Ada and Amara, barely 3 years old, watched with wide, hungry eyes. Hunger had taught them silence. At the doorway stood Ifeoma, his wife, her figure outlined against the morning light. A small traveling bag rested at her feet. Her expression was cold, her lips pressed thin, her eyes drained of warmth. "Cheek," she said, her voice flat, "I can't do this anymore. Every day is suffering. No money, no comfort, no future. This isn't a marriage, it's punishment." Chike turned slowly, his voice trembling. "Ifeoma, don't speak like that. We are struggling, yes, but things will change. For God's sake, look at Ada and Amara. They need their mother." She glanced at the girls and then looked away. "They'll survive. Children always do. But me? I'm tired of surviving. I want to live." She bent down, grabbed the bags and slung it across her shoulder. Cheeky stood in her way, desperation sharpening his voice. "So you will leave me? Leave us because I am poor?" "Because you are hopeless," she snapped. 5 years of marriage, and what do I have? A leaking roof, empty pots, shame. Other women wear lace and gold. I wear faded wrappers. Cheek, I won't die with you in poverty." Her words cut like a knife. Outside, curious neighbors had gathered. Women muttered. Men shook their heads. Children whispered. One voice rose above the rest. "Na true she dey talk, poor man no dey get respect." Laughter followed. The twins began to cry, their small bodies trembling with fear. Cheeky reached for his wife, his eyes burning. "Ifeoma, please, for their sake." But she pulled her arm free. "No, Chike, you keep them. They will only slow me down. I need to save myself." With that, she pushed past him. The door banged against the wall as she marched out into the dusty morning. The compound erupted with murmurs. She really left him. What a disgrace. Another voice added, "That man cannot even feed himself. She made the right choice." Their words clung to Cheek like thorns. Slowly, he turned back to his daughters. He sank to his knees, gathering them into his arms. He rocked them, whispering through the lump in his throat. "Don't cry, my angels, don't cry. She may have left, but I am here. I will never leave you." That night, after coaxing the twins to sleep with stories he barely believed, Cheek sat in the dark. The house was silent, except for rats scurrying across the ceiling. His stomach growled, but his heart burned hotter than hunger. "Ifeoma has taken her love," he murmured, "but I will not let her take your future. Poverty has mocked me. Neighbors laugh at me, but I swear before heaven, Ada and Amara will never beg. I will crawl, bleed, and break my body if I must. These girls will rise." The vow settled into his bones. The man who had begged Ifeoma to stay and was gone. What remained was steel, quiet, stubborn, unshakable. Days blurred into nights, and Chike became a shadow in the city, a man who refused to stop moving, even when his body begged for rest. Each morning before the sun cleared the haze, he strapped Ada to his back and held Amara's hand, walking the dusty road in search of work. At construction sites, he carried cement blocks until his shoulders burned like fire. He mixed mortar, pushed wheelbarrows, climbed scaffolds under the unforgiving sun. His palms blistered and peeled, leaving cracks that stung with sweat. By evening, He returned home with just enough coins for beans, a salt, and sometimes a handful of crayfish. When construction jobs dried up, he moved to the market. He became the man who carried people's heavy loads, pushing barrows stacked with yams, eat, or crates of drinks. Some days he earned money. Other days, he earned only insults. At night, Cheeky skipped meals so Ada and Amara could eat. He watched them lick their fingers clean, pretending not to notice his own stomach growling. His ribs pressed against his skin. But when his daughters smiled faintly, it gave him strength. Neighbors mocked him openly. "See this one talking like a prophet," one woman scoffed. "He thinks sweat will buy wealth." Others pitied the children, but blamed the father. If he were a real man, his wife would never have left. But Chike ignored them. Instead, he taught Ada and Amara their ABCs, using a stub of chalk on the mud wall. He sang songs to help them count. They laughed when he drew crooked animals, but their laughter was enough to remind him why he endured. When the twins finally slept, he pulled out a battered notebook and scribbled ideas. He dreamed of selling recharge cards, then tried. The business collapsed. He borrowed to start a food stall. Rain washed it away. He tried second-hand shoes, but they gathered dust in the market. Failure became a companion, but quitting never crossed his mind. One evening, drenched by rain, Chike walked home with empty hands. His chest ached, not just from hunger but from the weight of shame. Passing a roadside workshop, he paused. Inside, artisans carved furniture, chairs, beds, shelves. The scent of freshly cut wood hit him, like a forgotten memory. His late father had once been a carpenter, before sickness took him. Chike stood in the rain, watching, his heart beating faster. The next day, he returned. He begged the workshop owner for a chance. The man laughed. "You? With those skinny arms? Carpentry is not for beggars. I will sweep, I will carry planks, I will clean tools," Chike insisted. "Just let me learn." Reluctantly, and the man agreed, mostly to exploit him. But Chike didn't care. He swept floors until his back ached. He hauled logs heavier than his frame. Slowly, he picked up the rhythm of hammer and saw the patience of sanding, the pride of shaping something with his own hands. Weeks turned to months. His muscles hardened. His palms, once blistered, grew calloused. He learned to measure, to carve, to polish. When others mocked, he kept quiet. When they laughed at his mistakes, he worked harder. By the time Ada and Amara turned 7, their father could craft a chair that stood sturdier than most. His tables were smooth as glass. His beds carried patterns that caught eyes. Customers began to ask, "Who made this one?" And slowly, a new name entered the market, Chike. He wasn't rich yet. The house still leaked when it rained. Beans still filled their plates more than meat. But a door had opened, and for the first time in years, Chike saw a light that poverty could not extinguish. With his new skills sharpened, Chike took the boldest step of his life. He saved every coin he could from odd carpentry jobs and rented a tiny shed at the edge of the market. It was nothing more than 4 wooden walls and a corrugated roof, but to him it was a palace. He bought a second-hand hammer, a saw with teeth already worn, and a few scraps of wood. On the first day, he carved a simple stool. It wobbled, but he sold it for a few naira. That single sale lit a fire in his chest. Neighbors who once mocked him now raised their brows. "So he thinks carpentry will make him rich," they sneered. But Chike ignored them. Each stool, table, and shelf he produced was better than the last. His daughters carried small brushes and helped him polish the wood, laughing when their faces appeared in the shiny surfaces. "One day," he told Ada and Amara, "people will fight to buy our work." His reputation spread quietly at first. Then one customer, impressed by a bed frame he had built, introduced him to a hotel manager. The manager gave him a chance, ordering a dozen chairs. Chike worked day and night, refusing to sleep until every joint was smooth, every edge aligned. When the hotel received the order, they were stunned at the quality. Soon as more orders followed, but success came with enemies. Other carpenters mocked him. Some even tried to sabotage his work, breaking planks, hiding his tools. Once a jealous co-worker accused him of stealing designs. Chike swallowed the humiliation, refused to fight, and poured his anger into even better craftsmanship. The more they tried to crush him, the stronger he grew. As profits increased, he expanded. He hired apprentices, boys from the neighborhood, who once laughed at his poverty. They now called him Ogachike, their voices carrying respect. Trucks began to load his furniture, carrying them not just across the city, but into neighboring states. Thalta and Amara, now teenagers, helped with bookkeeping. They stood proudly in the shop, taking orders with confidence. At night they studied, their school fees paid from Chiki's sweat. They watched their father's name rise like the furniture he built, piece by piece, plank by plank. Years rolled forward. The small shed grew into a factory, buzzing with machines and workers. From one hotel he supplied to 10. From one city, he expanded across regions. Investors approached him, eager to partner. Journalists wrote headlines, "From poverty to power, the billionaire carpenter." But through the rise, Cheek remained the same man. He still woke early, still checked every piece of furniture with his own hands, still remembered the taste of Gary eaten in darkness. At night, when the compound was quiet, he whispered prayers of gratitude, not for the wealth, but for the strength that carried him through the valley. His empire grew, but his heart stayed tethered to the vow he made the night Ifeoma walked out. His daughters would never beg, and now they never would. Morning sunlight bounced off the gleaming gates of Chiki's mansion. The compound stretched wide, lined with trimmed hedges, and parked cars worth more than the house he once lived in. Security guards in neat uniforms stood at attention, their eyes sharp. It was the kind of home Ifeoma could never have imagined when she walked away years ago. That morning she returned. Her once proud posture was bent by time and regret. She wore flashy clothes, heavy makeup, and shoes that clicked loudly against the pavement, but the perfume of cheap desperation clung to her. As she stepped through the gates, her heart pounded. She had heard whispers in the city. Chike is a billionaire now. Chike, the carpenter, owns factories. His daughters are queens in their own right. She expected the guards to chase her away, but they let her in after a phone call. When she walked into the living room, her breath caught. Chandeliers glowed above marble floors. Paintings lined the walls. Everything screamed wealth and dignity. And then she saw them. Ada and Amara, no longer hungry children in torn dresses, but radiant young women. They wore university gowns, their shoulders straight, their eyes calm with confidence. They looked at their mother, but not with the innocence of children. Their gaze was steady, sharp with memory. Behind them stood Chika, dressed in a tailored suit, his posture firm. He was broader now, stronger, wealthier, but his eyes carried the same fire that had once kept him alive in a leaking one-room house. Ifeoma's voice shook. "Cheek, I made a mistake. I didn't know you'd become this." Chike studied her, silent. He remembered the cracked stool, the whispers of neighbors, the nights his stomach growled while his daughters slept. He remembered her words, "They will only slow me down." His jaw tightened. "Ifeoma," he said quietly, "you left when we needed you most. You chose comfort and over loyalty. You chose gold over love." Tears welled in her eyes. She dropped to her knees as clutching the hem of his trousers. "Forgive me, take me back. I'll be better this time. I was foolish, blind." Before Chike could answer, Ada stepped forward. Her voice was steady, carrying the weight of years. "Mother, we already have a family. You chose to be a stranger." Amara nodded. "We don't hate you, but you cannot walk back into a life you abandoned." Chike's eyes burned, but he did not cry. He gently freed himself from Ifeoma's grasp. "I don't hate you either, but the man you abandoned died in that small house. The man who stands here now is not yours to claim." Silence filled the room, heavy as stone. Ifeoma looked around at the wealth that might have been hers, at the daughters who no longer needed her, and at the man who had risen without her. Regret clawed at her chest. She turned and walked out, her heels echoing against the marble floor like a funeral drumbeat. When the gates shut behind her, Chiki drew his daughters close. He whispered the vow that had once been spoken in darkness, now fulfilled in light. "No one will ever take your future away." And in that moment, the laughter of neighbors and the sting of betrayals and the scars of hunger all melted into one truth. Poverty had lost. From the dust of a one-room house to the light of a mansion, Cheeky's story reminds us that resilience is louder than rejection, and love is stronger than loss. No matter where you start, dignity and determination can carry you to heights no one imagined. If this story touched you, don't just leave. Subscribe, like, comment, and share, so more voices of resilience can be heard.